Good morning. It's Friday. Welcome to the Friday Grief Chat. I'm Jill. That's Deb.
I'm Deb.
And we're here. And boy, has it been a week.
It's it's been one grief session after another for so many things. I mean, the vulnerabilities of celebrities out of character, those kind of vulnerabilities and their houses and burning down. And you think it's not just that. I mean, to those that watched Jimmy Carter's funeral and the uh, the interactions between past and present and president-elect and their wives. Wow. It's sort
There
of
was
like,
a lot
go ahead.
going on. There was a lot going on.
And then with the snow here and news and all sorts of stuff, it's been, and clients and my clients, and it this might sound weird, but I'm officiating. It'll be a delightful memorial tomorrow. I know that might sound weird, but yeah.
It's hard
So
when the bright spot is a memorial service.
yeah. I guess
Yeah.
that is weird.
I absolutely loved the late president's grandson's moments when he was speaking about grandpa and how he humanized him and how he brought everyone into their world and still shared him with the world. That was wonderful. I think we should provide pageantry when we lose a president. I think that's important.
Yes.
I think that someone who has served as much as he served in so many ways, that deserves to be honored.
Yes. It's almost like I feel we have, I'm not going to call it Kubler-Ross stages of grief this week, but it's like we've, as a nation, I'm not going to speak outside this country, and personally, seen a wide range of how to honor someone when they've been dead, how to
Mhm.
honor somebody when they're alive, and be
Mhm.
grateful for being alive. Someone
We've got
asked
to
me the other day, I used to say, and people say, "How are you?" And I'd say, took my meds, not arrested. It's great. Now I
right.
go, I'm not dead. That's great. And then after someone dies, and then to allow those vulnerabilities to come up. I just think that's real important to
Well,
acknowledge for yourself that I'm really sad. I'm really disappointed. Notice I statements because it's not about another person. But
mhm.
I really feel you don't tell dead people you really made me sad today. I mean, you might if you're me and I start calling on my mother's spirit. You need to get down here and do something.
Right.
That's when I couldn't sell her stuff. That's different. But yeah, to allow those I statements, to stop blaming others, take care of yourself. You're already feeling vulnerable, at least mention it. you
Yeah.
know Say to your friends, I did this week, I said to a dear friend, I'm really stuck and I don't know how to proceed in our friendship. in our
Me too.
friendship because there were so many other factors. I don't know. How about I just do this? It wasn't how about this is what I'm going to do. And then she called me because she's a friend and she said, I don't like this. What's going on? I'm sad, I said. And yeah, I'll shut up for just a moment and let you say something.
We I watched the funerals interspersed with back to the news. Where's the
Mm,
fire now? And our house being knocked around by winds that were gusting up to 80 to 100 miles an hour at moments. And literally, the wind finally stopped here at our house, although it's now windy again, at about 7 this morning. It's been going since Monday night.
oh,
And everyone in Southern California was warned, and you do what you can, but we're drought status and it's dry outside, and we all knew we were in danger. And it felt like sort of a divide between the grown-ups and the responsible people and the not responsible people and the people not being responsible for their younger people who were making terrible decisions, like using firecrackers on Monday
fireworks.
night
Yeah,
and Tuesday night, and literally Southern California is a tinder box. And
right.
now the winds are picking up. Stephanie, I see you. The winds are picking up now in South Riverside County and San Diego County. They're about to get hit more than we are right now, but there are still lots of people in evacuations in LA, and you can't relax. You can't
Right.
let things go. I live on a hillside. I watch that mountain like a hawk this whole week because
Hmm.
literally one spark. And we've got friends who run water aerobics here in Riverside. Now we are 60 miles from LA, folks. 60. Closest fire was in our river bottom, which is still a good 4 or 5 miles from my house. And
But still,
in the pool this morning, there were burned leaves.
oh,
And that pool was nowhere near a fire, which tells you how
right.
far sparks and debris is traveling and why these things are so big. And yet we are in the middle of it and watching others, especially others from outside, placing blame. If there's a hurricane, what somebody chooses to do, that's somebody's choice. You don't blame them. If somebody is in a fire zone where it's burning at four football fields per minute, you can't get out of the way.
No,
Nobody can run that fast, and there's
right.
smoke. You can't even tell which end is up. And yet there's so much nastiness right now
I
toward
know.
California. And okay, we live in a beautiful state. So sorry. We generally have a pretty decent economy that supports the rest of the country. Okay. We feed 50% of the country. Good to know. Right now, we've got tens of thousands of people without homes, kids who don't have schools, families who've lost neighbors, and they're just now beginning to excavate the cars that burned on PCH, and it's just like Lahaina.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Just like Lahaina and,
Mhm.
and Jill and I have said this to our listening viewers. I can't tell you how many times, and we're going to say it again. If you have ever had a loss that's similar to a loss going on now,
It's gonna bring it back up.
it's going to, what's the word? Dysregulate. Do they use
Mhm.
that term anymore?
Oh, we do I
Yeah.
do. Lots of people say trigger. It is. It's dysregulation,
Right.
right?
And dysregulation means you have whatever got shoved down like it was okay, it happened 20 years ago, is now up here with this, with this, with this, with this. with this. And give yourself time to swear, drink some water, and say, I'm not right in my head right now.
Breathe.
It's breathe. Breathe is the other thing. You know those little help text things that have been going around, grief texts, grief help, whatever. Andrew Vitale just put something on, right?
Yes.
And it was about we learned it here as box breathing. Breathe
Mhm.
in and out 4 times, do it again, do it again, do it again. He had the triangle, breathe in, breathe out, or hold, and then do that. You know, just keep breathing. And imagine how hard it is to breathe in California where the fires are.
You have no idea how
And
bad our air quality
that's,
is.
I know from you, and I only know from me because the Canadian fires one year came down to us and
They did.
don't go outside.
No, because when there's a
And
fire
I'm
like this, all the chemicals, all the stuff that builds houses and buildings and theaters
right,
and
right.
supermarkets is in the air.
Yeah.
It's 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 not kind of horrific, it just is
It's
horrific.
it's just horrible. My
And
friends
if
in
you're
Arizona too, they've had fires. It's thick, it's
Colorado,
horrible. Colorado.
Canada,
Oh,
Australia, and North Carolina with those huge storms, as well as Florida,
right,
which is still
right.
crawling out. It's not just California, but right now it is California, and and it's snow in your area and people facing all of the damage that snow and ice cause, and it's totally dysregulating, and when you're in the middle of it, you can't take that time out to go, "Okay, we got through it," because you haven't yet. Right?
And Jimmy Carter was one of the first ones to recognize climate change and do something. He was probably the first president to do that.
He put solar
And
panels on the White House, right?
he used to show up at his own house, what his grandson say, in shorts and Crocs. I don't think he
Yes.
said Birkenstocks. I
No,
thought it
Crocs.
was Crocs. You know, that's how he greeted everybody, shorts and Crocs. And people don't believe in climate change. And so then there's like, it's your perception if it's real or not. We're fighting fires with old ways when we need new ways because it's climate change has happened. It's
And
already happened.
it has. And
And
fire is terrifying. It
yeah,
really, truly is. We had to flee from a campground with Sherry and Tracy when the kids were really little. And the ranger who was on duty up to 3 o'clock hadn't notified us that we were in an evacuation zone. And the 3 o'clock ranger came on and said, "What are you people doing here?" We had a
right.
full campground and we had to sing songs while throwing stuff in the cars, getting the kids in. We drove past. Sherry talked about it this morning on a post. I
Hmm.
guess I had blocked out. Those were 18 walls, 18-foot high walls of flame that we
Right.
drove through to get out of there. I can't
It
imagine what those
no,
folks who are still in evacuation zones are feeling
right.
right now, except I can.
You can.
Mhm.
You know, um, I think when we had the mm, those high winds here and they put a tree through the church roof.
You've had
And
tornadoes too.
yeah, these were particular, there's a special derecho winds because
Mhm.
they're shearing. They just go like this.
Right.
Tornadoes are, you know, Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
And
100% don't like either one of them.
no, and I truly it was comforting when someone said, we had those in Texas and that happened to my house. And it wasn't like he was comparing, but I
Right.
saw he came through that. It'll be okay. He's here
Mhm.
talking about it, and so it was just a matter of owning my feelings. And the reason why I'm talking a lot about that today is how many here um, when they have that overwhelming grief feeling, and you don't even know it's an overwhelming grief feeling. You just know you're dysregulated or something, that we take it out on other people. And
Mhm.
you don't even realize that you're taking it out on other people. And so I had a client today. I said, I want you to say to yourself, this sucks for you. I hurt today.
Mhm.
I, I, and it's okay, because I've had other friends tell me this. It's okay to say to somebody, I need you to say, I see how hard this is for you. Tell them the words to say, because they might not be able to do that. But you can ask for the words that you need, especially if you didn't have parents that ever said, oh man, this is hard,
It
right?
is hard, and it is totally dysregulating. And you
And
do know there's another you're gonna get to the other side, but it's not okay right now.
it's
It's
not
just
okay
not
right now.
okay.
It's okay to say, I need someone else to recognize how not okay this is. Because a lot of times people, for whatever their problem is, or they don't know how to say, oh man, that's gotta hurt. Or I see how much you're hurting now. And notice how I say now, because I don't say I see how much you're going to hurt forever. I
Right.
say I see how much you're hurting now. And then if you've dumped on your husband, your wife, your spouse, your partner, your dog, your kids, own it. Own it and say, I'm not feeling okay now. And I just took out my fear on you.
And I
I'm
need to
sorry.
own it.
Say the
Mhm.
words. Say the words. And I think how important that is
Mm.
to uh, to allow yourself to be vulnerable and allow yourself to say the words.
And allow for space for those who are experiencing all of this stuff.
Mhm.
If they need to say something about, "This really hurts, I lost my house," don't tell them other people lost their house too.
Yeah,
They know it.
right.
They know it. Entire
Or you'll
neighborhood,
rebuild, it'll be okay. But
and
right
you may
now
not.
it's not okay.
Your child doesn't have a school to go to. Your grocery store is gone. If you think about it, I went to the grocery store last night. First time out with norovirus, had my mask on, right? Had to go get dog food. And I walked into the grocery store and realized this is part of community. If we had had those same if it had been us, not them, I wouldn't have
Mhm.
that to go to, and I wouldn't have those connections, and those are people I see all the time.
Right.
And that was the
Right.
talk in the grocery store. People in line going, "Wow, this is my community." And a neighborhood association meeting, this is our community. And those communities are wiped off the earth. And some of those people can't rebuild, just like some of the people in North Carolina, because the earth is gone from where their house used to be. And in Florida, some of the mobile home parks are not being allowed to rebuild. And those are seniors who thought they were going to spend the rest of their lives there. Now they're banned
Right.
from being there. When we have these massive losses, whether it's a wind event or a fire event or a flood event or an earthquake,
Mm-hmm.
or, let's throw in a good big wave too. We've had those as well. We don't tell people, oh, well, other people lost too. Or, it's you're going to be able, you'll have insurance. Who cares about insurance?
Actually, I want to state a fact that was just printed out yesterday. Did you know State Farm for the people in California canceled a lot of home protection?
Yep.
So they did not have insurance. And I don't care
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're rich or you're poor.
You need your insurance, and we fight for it in our neighborhood every year. We have 4
Mm-hmm.
insurers left in our neighborhood that will
Oh,
cover us, and, now they're doing things like charging us extra, but I'll pay the money because they have a thing where if we're in a fire, they will send someone out with retardant and spray your house. Now, they couldn't have done that this week, there was no time. Everyone just
right,
fled, right?
right,
But
right,
when you're listening to folks, and I'm limiting how much I'm watching the news because I
right.
but there was somebody who said, "My mom only wanted the picture of her dad. I left behind my grandfather's woodwork, my dad's military medals. An Olympian left behind their Olympic gold medals," right? All of that is gone, and you've lost your next door neighbor,
Yep,
and you've lost the
yep.
park you went to. It's just char. And if you go back, it's toxic.
Do you remember Milo Vamilia? Maybe I'm not saying his last name right. He was on This Is Us, and This Is Us had a big fire originally. Do you remember with the
Yes.
crock pot, right? And so and he said the irony was not lost on me. He says, how life imitates art, and
And it does.
and his whole house was gone. And the reporter, who was probably happy to have like a famous person, right, to interview, and you he was Milo was trying to be so um polite. He was in shock.
Right.
He had just rolled up, and the paparazzi were asking him questions, and he's like, I'm in
Yeah.
shock right now. And he was just trying to be polite, not take his anger and his sadness and everything, all his overwhelm out on this person. And the person kept asking him questions instead of, you know, when a house dies, a house can also be a home. Like a person, right when someone dies, you don't say, "How do you feel about it?" With a
But people give
microphone.
it is exactly that. It's like when there's a
Right.
mass shooting and there's someone with a
Yeah.
phone, microphone, and a camera. Folks, let people. There's been criticism of like Paris Hilton crying because she was watching her house burn. Nobody should have been showing her house burning, and no one should have been recording her watching it. That's an intimate moment when you're losing everything and the place you're raising your children. That's intimate, not public, and it should have been treated that way. And I think we need to be better about letting people have the space they need, the emotions they need, not have the emotions if they don't want to have the emotions.
Right.
Protect them from
Right.
intrusion. You're right, Ian.
You
Boundaries are not respected, and that's one of the biggest things with grief all the time. But in something like this, we really need to be respecting boundaries and letting people cope however they need to. And we need to
you know,
check
you
in on all of them, whether they
yeah,
survived, whether their house survived or didn't. Check in on your people.
you know, I put something up and it was real interesting. And in fact, you put it up today. It was something I found on grief that came across. And I don't have it in front of me, so I don't remember exactly what it says. Something about swimming in the ocean of grief or something like
How
that.
do you
And
keep swimming?
And you know what? I put sometimes I can't swim, which is an active thing. All I can do is float. And another friend said, sometimes I don't even want to be in the water.
Right.
And then someone else said something, and it's however you need to do your grief
Is what you
without
do.
blame and shame. I mean, I had another friend recently that, a friend today, we were talking, and the the bottom line, this is just really hard. Even if everything else was perfect, all the backstory, all this, it would still be really hard what she was going through. Another friend of mine, I talked with her. I don't remember when this was, but all of a sudden, 18 months later, all the doubts she had, maybe I talked about it last week, all the doubts she had came to a single point that said, oh, this is really my fault. If I only. And I had to deconstruct that immediately for her.
Right.
And and that's what happens. Are you going to say, um, uh, you know, I shouldn't have sent my kids to school that day, which they do say that. That is what the parents of whose children have died in mass shootings. I should
Right.
have followed. I had for an instance, thought this. I shouldn't have left. I should have tried harder. I should
I
have
should
said
have said I
something.
love you when she got out of the car.
Yeah, exactly. And, y- you know, narcissists don't do this. And I am going to say this, they don't tend to blame themselves.
Right.
That's not part of how they set up. They will blame others. My hope always is at some point, narcissists can take ownership. But for those of us who are not, uh, I mean, maybe occasionally it's all about me. Of course it is. But in general, I always say, no, it's really about me. In general, most people, let's say 80%, since I'm making up the statistic, that we go, oh my God, I should have put those things in a safety deposit box sooner. I should have paid for that extra assurance. I I should have left sooner. I should have taken more. You can't. And I shouldn't feel this way. Yeah, that's another big one. We're all at different times going to be touched by an ocean of grief. It's just what happens.
And you can keep going, but you can also take time out when you need to. You
Right.
can go do what you need to do to take care of yourself. If you're privileged enough to not have been in a disaster zone so that you still have your home and you can make your space there, great. If you have evacuated and lost your home, you can make a space wherever you are to give yourself that blanket fort moment, or that not outdoor moment right now, but if you can get to cleaner air, an outdoor moment, right? Something to give yourself a break from it and to turn
Yeah.
off the incessant chatter and
Mm-hmm.
let your brain come down. Go from red and yellow to blue and green, and to breathe and to grieve the way you need to, and then you can go back into it and support others.
For those that feel helpless, one, I want you to, if you're on any social media platform, I'm only on two. And so what I see is there are helpers. Mr. Rogers always said, look for the helpers. There are helpers, there are restaurants, there's this, there's that. And people have opened up their houses to others. They have said, there's some Facebook friend I have who said, woohoo, the elevators are working. And for the first time in 4 months, I get to go back to my house, because she was like on the 13th floor. And
Wow.
that was during the storms in North Carolina.
Right.
And she couldn't get there. So she said, I've slept in, I don't know, 83 beds in the past 4 months or something like that.
Mhm.
And it, look for the helpers. And if you don't, let's say you can't give money, can you repost this so that somebody else can repost, so somebody else can look? Because chances are a lot of these people took their phones, and
Mhm.
there is help, but they didn't know because of XYZ. So I'm just saying, you do what you can. Can you send good thoughts if you're not a prayer? If you're a prayer, I believe in the power of prayer. I believe in it's a type of energy. And, send good thoughts.
Can we look
Send
at who
your
the
hopes.
president can we look at the president we just lost as an example of look for the helpers, look for the heroes, thank those who are here helping or here in your community. Thank the guy who
Mm-hmm.
finally got the power on so you can get in your elevator, right? Find that gratitude moment, but look for the helpers
Mm-hmm.
and then reach out to those. If all you do is send a couple text messages every day to people you know who've been
Yeah.
impacted or who've had prior impacts from prior events
Oh,
and say, "Hey, thinking about you."
Katie Franco, and I'm going to use her name. She's one of our World Laughter Tour leaders. And when there was the hurricane in Puerto Rico, she was posting, here's what's happening, here's what's now. And I saw her post yesterday, finally, and got from, because she's in Southern California, right where that's going on. She can't breathe very well. And I said, Katie, I'm thinking about you. And let's say you can't make a text, write a post. They're going to look at it,
Right.
because it's going to help them to scroll and be mindless instead of bringing forward, oh my God, we're screwed, because that's how they're feeling.
It is.
So,
It is because
yep.
folks who've had losses, just like the ones in North Carolina and Florida and everywhere else, are now facing mounds of paperwork, and some people still don't know if they've got a home to go to, and some of them are still in the line of fire, literally.
Yes,
So
literally.
let's hold those folks up. And then on a happy moment, let me give a shout out to Kelsey K. Shockey Pope, who is getting her PhD today in physical therapy, and she is having graduation today despite all of this.
Wow. Yay.
Right? Oh, wow. Deb, this has been a heavy lift.
So, what else is new?
Right?
this
Keep
is
going,
this is
folks.
how Jill and I think and help. We state the obvious, and then we give you all hugs and hold your hand through words, through space, through permission, through whatever. And you're not alone.
You're not. We're here. Lots of people are there. Look for the helpers. Look for the
Right.
places where there's positive thoughts. Positive thoughts are not toxic. If you don't overdo them, they're helpful. They help you change your brain. And we
Yeah.
need you to keep your brain in check so it doesn't go off on the hardest parts. It can bring in some of the better stuff too.
Right.
Okay? And then we'll be back next week. We're sorry that our guest didn't come. I should have said this at the start out. She's actually with her mom who's in the hospital while her dad is at home with a loved one taking care of him because he's in dementia. So she couldn't be here because she's torn between two places right now.
Right.
So we'll
Exactly.
bring her back when we can because everybody's got stuff.
Everybody's got stuff. And Jill, I'm so glad you're here. I mean, yeah, there were a lot of people that helped me out last week.
Thank you, everyone. I was so
Yeah,
sick.
I know you were. And you're still in recovery, so be gentle.
Working on it. I highly recommend you never find norovirus come to your home ever. Just got to say it. Thank you, everyone, for supporting us all this time. We are in our 5th year now of doing this program, and we're so glad we get to be, we're honored and privileged to be in your homes.
Yeah, we are. And thank you. And thanks for those that keep in touch too. There's several people. Last week I sounded like romper stomper bomper boo, like romper room, because I said, oh, and I see Ian and I see Stephanie. It was really good. It was really good.
All right, we'll
All
see you all
right.
next week,
Good luck to
Friday
you,
morning.
Jill.
Bye,
Yes.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.